Welcome to episode 189.
You're listening to Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast, where you'll learn the underground, closely guarded secrets that will revolutionize your real estate business. This podcast is all about helping you exit the real estate newbie zone and enter financial freedom, building up your real estate throne. This is Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast. And now your host, real estate investor, entrepreneur, world traveler, and nationwide mentor, Chris Bruce.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Escaping REI Newbie Zone. I'm your host, Chris Bruce. I want to say thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Like I told you from last episode, that we have a very, very special guest that is going to be on this call today that I'm interviewing. I had a phenomenal time laughing at this interview. We probably laughed the whole dang interview. Few F-bombs, so just, for those of you that get a little bit frustrated or offended by curse words, just kind of giving you a pre-warning. There's a few curse words that are in this episode, but nonetheless, there was a great episode because this guy has been involved in real estate for about a decade now, maybe a little bit over a decade. He actually got into the business before the real estate market crashed, and he got into it and made some money. Of course, when everything crashed, he lost everything and had to go back to the corporate world. And then after that, he got back into real estate, and he really talks about how he's really used the power of networking to really fuel his whole real estate empire. All right. He's done a lot of wholesaling. He's transitioned and he went into doing fix and flips. And now he's actually entered the arena of a lot of multi-families. Okay. So he's holding multi-families for cash flow. And that's really where we real estate investors need to be looking towards to go. It's cool with making a quick dollar and turning over, making $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. But eventually the goal is to hold a rental property or multifamily, get into holding apartments for positive cash flow, because that ultimately is going to allow you to have the lifestyle that you want to have. When you can be able to bring in $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month from rental income, sitting on your ass doing nothing. I mean, that is the goal, right? Passive income. And so he's going to be talking all about that. And we even touched on the subject about the problem with minorities getting into real estate. All right. He's going to blow your mind when he talks about that. So let me go ahead and wait no further and introduce my special guest, Brayand Ponciano. All right, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Escaping the REI Newbie Zone. As I said in the intro, I have a very special guest on the call today. So you guys are going to enjoy this interview. I'm pretty sure he's going to drop a lot of nuggets, as he usually always does on his Facebook Live videos and other podcasts as well, too. So let me go ahead and welcome on my guest, Brayand. Let me make sure I say your last name wrong. Is it Ponciano?
Ponciano. You're right, man.
Okay.
That's close. A lot of people have messed it up a whole lot worse than that, so it's all good.
So, B, man.
And not only will I be dropping knowledge, but I may drop an F-bomb here and there, so don't get too offended, people.
Yeah.
This is part of the freedom. Part of me not working for somebody for over 10 years now kind of allows you to be who you want to be, not who you're supposed to be. And that's a big thing that I teach my students. But more than anything, that's the big thing that I live myself. As you know, we're friends on Facebook. You've seen the stuff that I post. You see me travel with this little stuffed monkey and a bunch of other things that I do. It's just my personality. So anyway, thank you for having me on the show, Chris.
Yeah, definitely, man. I really appreciate you getting on. And that's one thing I'll say I like about you, that you show people the real you. You don't put on a front for social media or anything. You say, listen, this is me, this is who you're dealing with. If you don't like it, right? Exactly.
I met our boy Nassar. I've known him online for many years, but I actually met him face to face last January 2017, and he came up to me. He's like, "Dude, you're one of the only people that I've ever known who's the exact same way in real life that they are on social media."
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because some people put on this it's funny as you see some people like online and then you meet them in person. You're like, I'm like talking to a different person. Like, this is crazy.
Different person. And that's one of the things that I love about entrepreneurship, specifically real estate, is that it's all a personality. It's all a relationship based business. And honestly, the most successful people are the people that can show their personality, which is one of the great things about us being minority, is that we have personality built in already.
Right.
Need to learn how to tweak it. Instead of using that personality to get laughs in the classrooms, you use that personality to make money in your bank account. Yep. But it's the exact same way. And a lot of times we, as people, not even minorities, but just all races, we feel like we have to tone down who we really are to fit the structure of who society says that we're supposed to be. So yeah, having the freedom of being my own boss, and it doesn't matter. I mean, hey, if you don't like me, that's all right, dude. If you don't like the fact that I say, don't invest with me, go invest with somebody else. There's plenty of people out there. But I think that my personality is something that attracts, but also it attracts the right people and it repels the wrong people.
Right.
And I feel that the more that I can be upfront about my personality and who I am, the less time I'm going to be wasting with individuals. So instead of pretending to be all Mr. Proper and Mr. Sophisticated, and then 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line, 5 months down the line, my investors find out that I'm not that way, that might be an issue, as opposed to just me being like, look, this is who I am. This is what I can do. Here's my portfolio. You guys are interested, yes or no? And most of the time, in my experience, that has led to people really, really liking doing business with me, because they feel that, hey, if this guy's genuine about who he is, then he's really genuine about everything that he does in business.
Yep, I agree 100%. So, Brian, for anybody that is like, that don't necessarily know you or your story, can you kind of like give us a little bit of background history of how you actually got started in real estate investing?
Sure. So first and foremost, I want to put out there that I am Guatemalan, and my parents are both born in Guatemala. So I am a child of immigrant parents. I was born in the States, but we had no money. My parents barely knew the language. So anybody out there, you have no excuses as to what you can do it or not. I remember growing up and everybody around us was poor. My parents had a handful of friends in Guatemala that moved to LA area where we were at, and everybody was poor except for this one lady. And this one lady used to do, she used to do Mary Kay. And I just remember that because she used to drive that pink Cadillac. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then in addition to that, where she made most of her money, though, was in real estate. And I was always very interested in real estate. I thought I wanted to be a realtor. But as I started learning and talking to individuals, I came across the concept of wholesaling. And the concept of wholesaling really resonated with me because remember, I didn't have any money. My family didn't have any money. Our friends didn't have any money. There wasn't absolutely anybody that I can approach and say, hey, I got this great opportunity. I can offer you this much on your money. Whatever the case it was, there wasn't anybody around for me to even get money from. So I was able to do some research. I was able to just ask around. And initially I came across the concept of wholesaling. And I said, okay, here's something that I can do where it requires little to no money on my part, just a lot of sweat equity, just a lot of work. How can I make this work? And is this for reals? And initially my hood mindset was very skeptical that I could make $1, $2, $3, $5, $10, $20,000 by just simply writing it on a piece of paper. That didn't make sense to me. I was from a young age conditioned that you have to work hard for your money. You have to work hard for your money.
Right.
And that wasn't resonating with me. So I remember the first time that I actually started working with an investor. I decided that I wanted to be in real estate. I went to go get my real estate license and said, you know what? I don't want to be this. I don't want to be a realtor. I'm not really interested in driving people around on the weekends to go look at houses. Plus, I had a really car at that point, bro. And I was honestly afraid that I'm going to break down somewhere and leave my clients stuck. So it was just something that I didn't want to do. And I realized that I wanted to be in the industry. So I looked at a lot of different ads on Craigslist, a lot of different places. I ended up at a lot of different pitches for a lot of different companies. One of them was Newbie, which was a company back in the day that used to sell they sell like a real estate education program, but it was
I know
a
you're talking about.
multi-marketing company about that. And a lot of times they would put different types of ads depicting different things, but at the end of the day, it was just a sales pitch for their education program.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, I went to a lot of these different things. I met people at these events. I stayed in contact with different people. One day I'm sitting at a job because I wanted to be in real estate so bad that I got into selling mobile homes. And it was a mobile home builder, and I literally sat in an office all day, waited for somebody to come in, then walked them around and showed them to these hot ass freaking model homes that were just mobile homes there, and then coming back in and get them hopefully qualified for land, leasing and everything else. And it was horrible. But I had nothing better to do than to search online. I met this guy who said, hey, I'm willing to teach you. If you're willing to work, I'm willing to teach you. We can learn real estate investing together. I was like, man, it's probably another Newbie reach pitch, but I got nothing better to do. I got nothing to lose, so let me go check it out. The guy turned out to be legit. He was working with one of the bigger wholesalers here in town, and he was separating from him.
Okay.
He said, look, and I can provide you with leads. I can't do anything. I can't even hold your hand. I can't even go with you. But I can hook you up with one of my boy here, and he's going to show you how to door knock. And for you guys that don't know what door knocking is, that's exactly what it sounds. You get a list of leads, and you knock on their door. This particular example, they were pre-foreclosure leads. So we would have to knock on somebody's door and say, hey, you're behind at least 3 months payments. You're about to go into foreclosure. Let me buy your house. As you can imagine, there was a whole lot of plus the fact that I was Hispanic, bilingual, and I grew up in the hood. A lot of the times, like everybody in that office was these clean-cut white boys that had been to college, so nobody was trying to door knock in the hood. And I was like, fuck, it don't bother me none.
Right.
However, though, when you're door knocking in the hood, there's a high probability of aggression. There's a high probability of, we have this curse as minorities, as people that grew up in the hood, where we're very defensive about everything. What the fuck are you talking about, man? No, that's not right. Man, I got that taken care of, and we're lying out of our asses. Out of our asses, knowing goddamn well that we don't have any solution for that problem.
Right.
And I like to call that the Ostrich Syndrome, where people literally just stick their head on the ground and say, la, 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 this ain't happening, this ain't happening. So I came across a lot of that. And that was my first introduction into real real estate investing.
Gotcha.
As I said, I had the opportunity to come in, and I had the opportunity to literally just door knock. And I remember this guy here in the Phoenix area. They were based out of Scottsdale, which is the nicer part of town. And I lived in Maryvale, which is the west side of Phoenix. And I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a fax machine. I didn't have a printer. So I literally needed to go every single day and drive about 45 minutes to an hour to this guy's office to go pick up leads, to then drive back to my same side of town so I can start door knocking in that neighborhood. And I did that for many, many months before I got a deal. And that was honestly my first introduction to it. But that also taught me about wholesaling, because that's exactly what we were doing. We were just buying these things saying, hey, you're in foreclosure. Well, you need to sell. What do you owe? We'll offer you this much. And then we would turn around and sell it to another investor for a certain markup. And that was basically the start of it.
Okay.
But I like that whole concept because it didn't take anything. It didn't take, it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of gas money. It took me honing in my skills. It took me honing in my communication skills, being a chameleon, being able to talk to a black couple, being able to talk to a Mexican couple, being able to talk to people that were straight out of Mexico, being able to talk to an older white couple, being able to talk to interracial mixed couples. Whatever the situation called for, I could switch my stance. And that was really the introduction to me getting into the business of real estate initially.
Gotcha. Okay. So you got into wholesaling, of course. When was this? What year was this? Was it before the crash or after the crash?
Oh, this was before the crash. So this was 2006 when I started wholesaling.
Okay. All right. So you started wholesaling, then you finally got your deals closed. You started making money. Then the market crashed. What happened then? What did you do to transition? Or
well, I actually, so because of my failed or my bad mindset that I had, once I started making money, I was like, man, I don't need this investor. I'm going to do this shit myself. Why am I giving them the majority of the deal here? I'm going to go do this myself. So at right about the end of 2000 and the mid 2007 to the end, I basically lost everything that I had, and then the market crashed. Now, being that I was doing pre-foreclosures, our market crashed about a year or so before the official market crash. So right about 2008, I had to go back to corporate America, and I worked for Verizon Wireless for a year doing sales. And I was making good money. I was making decent money. I had benefits. I got to dress up and go to an office every day, and I had my vacation and my 401ks and everything else. But I was miserable. And I had lost my ass. I was forced to go back to work, but I knew for a fact that was not going to happen anymore. After being there a few months, I was like, man, I got to get the fuck out of here. There was a guy that I met over at Verizon Wireless, and I hope you guys understand this analogy, but there was a guy that I met, and he was working next to me, and there was this girl who would come in, and probably out of a scale between a 1 and a 10, she was a 6. So she wasn't completely ugly, but she wasn't a beautiful woman. I remember she had really large breasts, and she used to just throw herself at Andy. Like literally and shamelessly throw herself at Andy. Oh, well, like pressing up her titties up against the counter. I ain't got nothing, nobody at home and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, she would leave and I would turn to Andy and be like, Andy, why don't you go handle that, bro? Like, right. It's not the best. Go handle that. And he's like, I can't do that, man. I can't do that. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, when I was in high school, senior in high school, I hooked up with a dime. And after being with a 10, I just can't be with somebody like that. And I was like, dude, you're full of Well, transition that into the business world. Once you've been your own boss, once you know that you can make $5,000-$10,000, literally made it up in money just by a piece of paper, you're not going to go back to working for a salary.
Right.
You're not going to go back to working per hour. That sucks. That's that's what you used to do back in high school before you develop your game.
Right.
Now you got game. Now you got skills. Now you know how to talk to women. Now you understand that, hey, I can date 10s all I want. I can date 9, 10s, whatever I want. I mean, I understand that I have that confidence, and that was what happened to me at that transition. So I lost my ass. I said, you know what? I can't stand this job anymore. I dealt with it for about a year, and said I would rather be broke than to have to put up with this. The market's still bad. That was 2009 when the market officially crashed. So as I said, my market had crashed about a year before.
Okay.
So when I went into corporate America, people weren't still throwing around the word recession. It was right about the time that I decided to quit when the word recession was coming into the national public. Like everybody and their mama was talking about recession. And I used to work at a retail store, so I know it's crazy to see how society, we just were basically sheep and we just talk about the same shit as everybody does. So when you're working in a retail space, you notice that because that's the first thing that people do is they just start talking and they're like the recession. So anyway, at that point, I was literally quitting my job when the recession was hitting the mainstream. So everybody thought I was a fucking idiot. Everybody thought I was crazy, including my mom, including my boss, including my coworkers. Everybody that I knew thought I was fucking crazy. Thought this was absolutely the worst thing that you could be doing. But I knew for a fact that I would rather be broke and happy than to have this bullshit security and be miserable like everybody else around me.
Yep. It's funny you say that because similar story, man. I got my first rental when I was 21 before the market. It crashed. I lost my house to foreclosure. Ended up getting the wholesaling around 2009. But when I was telling everybody, I'm going to do this full time next year, I'm going to quit my job, they were laughing at me. Like, this is stupid. The market's crashed. Like, why would you want to get into real estate right now? And it's so funny. I was the same way. I was like, listen, I got a daughter. Like, I can't be working for someone and missing out on having to, ask someone to take vacation time. And then if someone else's vacation time was put in before me and I got to, basically say screw it and I can't take that day off. I was like, this is not me.
That was actually the straw that broke the camel's back. I had decided one year that I was going to run a half marathon. And it was just something that I had committed to. It was something that I had worked on It was something that I had planned ahead of time. It was something that I put in my vacation time ahead of time. I put everything. I let everybody know. I made sure that all my shifts were covered. I took everything that I was supposed to do right at that job. The race was on a Sunday. On a Friday, these motherfuckers sent out an email saying, mandatory meeting for everybody in the district. We're going to meet up at this hotel. It's a mandatory, even if it's your day off, you're supposed to show up. We'll pay you. We got the important information to reveal to you, blah, 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 blah. So that was on that Sunday that I was supposed to run. And I showed up reluctantly to this meeting. And I swear to God, there wasn't anything that was said that couldn't be said in a fucking email. I was livid. I was pissed. I had friends and family that were going to come see me run. And I was just so pissed off. And I said, nah, man, I cannot be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I want to talk about here that hopefully your listeners can gather, because I know that a lot of your podcast is directed more towards like the newbie people.
Yep.
The mindset. When I decided in 2009 that I was going to quit, as I said, the recession was hitting. Everybody was like, are you crazy? How are you going to do this? The recession. And I could have fell into that mindset. I could have been like, oh, man, this is the worst time to be in real estate. This is the worst time to start a business. Like, I should just stay with my job where I know it's secure. I was selling cell phones, so it was a utility. Utilities don't go down during recessions. That's just, people continue using utilities anyway. So I had my job was secure. Everything was guaranteed per se. But I thought about it a different way. I said, okay, so the market is going down. This is the worst time to be in real estate. This is the worst time to be in business. You know what? If I fail, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm going to take this chance. And if I fail, I'll just blame it on the market. Hey, it was a fucking recession. What do you want me to do?
Right.
If I succeed, I'm a fucking genius. So to me, that risk versus reward, I was like, okay, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to even consider that had I not been able to consider a different point of view as opposed to the one point of view that every single person was doing.
Right.
This is a message that I would like to send out to your people, especially if you're a newbie, is stop listening to people who don't have shit anyways. All these people that were giving me advice were all living in crappy scenarios.
Yeah.
I remember this one time I had to call out my mom and my dad because they were very verbal about them they're not agreeing with my decision to do this. Because mind you, at this point, even though I just had a job where, I was making under $100,000 a year, but they had never even made anything close to that. So I was the first definition of quote unquote success in their eyes for an immigrant family, for me to have a house and a car and a steady paycheck and all this other crap. So they were very verbal about it. And one time I called them over and I said, look, guys, here's the deal. I'm going to do this shit regardless. Right. And it doesn't matter what you guys say and it doesn't matter what you guys do. I'm going to end up doing this regardless. Now, once again, if I fail, how could I blame it on the market? It is what it is. If I succeed, I'm a fucking genius. And guess what? 3-4 years after that, when things started going good for me, my parents all of a sudden were, they forgot about disagreeing with me. All of a sudden they were proud of me. All of a sudden they believed I can do it from the beginning. So just change your mindset. And when I was sitting there in that meeting with my parents, I realized that the fact that they disagreed with me was telling me that I was doing the right thing.
Yep.
Because my dad at that point was driving a school bus, and my mom at that point was cleaning toilets, like she was a janitor at a school somewhere. And I said, I love you guys, but I don't want to be you guys.
Right.
So the fact that you guys are disagreeing with what I want to do tells me that it's not in alignment with what you guys are doing. And that to me tells me that I'm doing the right thing. And I hope that you guys as newbies don't let your family, your friends, what your boys say, what your coworkers say, what all these other people who don't have what you want anyway. And really understand that most of them don't even have anything close to. Most of them, even if they have a nice house and a nice car, aren't even happy with that shit anyways.
Yep. I agree 100%. So, okay, so let's talk about, excuse me, you got back into wholesaling, correct? So did you go out and go back door knocking? Did you get a mentor and try some different strategies? What was the transition?
Yeah, so I decided to try a different strategy. What happened, as I mentioned, is I quit my job. Now, when I quit my job, I'm a chess player, and I normally have strategies and I normally have plans planned out. The thing about the universe, though, is it doesn't give a fuck about that, man. It doesn't give a shit about your plans and what you got going on. So I had some certain things lined up when I left my job that didn't pan out, and it just kind of forced me to reevaluate who I was. And what I ended up doing was I ended up starting a bandit sign company. I realized two things. One of them was that I needed money right away, but I was not going to go to a regular job. So I needed to start a product or a service that I could do at my own time, at my own leisure, and still be able to generate money to pay my bills, because I had a son and a daughter at that point too. So I needed to pay those bills. I decided that I was just going to do a service because I knew how to place out bandit signs. I had done it for other people before that they had paid me, and I was like, fuck, I think there's an opportunity here. And so I did that for money, but I also did that with the purpose of networking.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that I really spend a lot of time with my students. You know, I do have mentoring students, and the biggest thing that I teach them is networking. Not specifically the concept of networking, but how to network specifically and with the purpose. And that's what I did with the bandit sign business. Now, the bandit sign business was twofold. As I said, the first one was to make me money. Number two, though, was to introduce me to other investors, to other people that were still doing it while the market was gone. Because a lot of the people that I knew from back in the day that were doing it in 06, 07, those people had washed away with the rest of the folks. So now I needed to meet the people that were currently doing it while the market was bad. And that allowed me to learn from people. That allowed me to learn from people that were making money while on a down market.
Gotcha. Okay.
Here in Arizona, our market, especially in Phoenix, our market was fucking crazy. Like crazy high, literally going up 3 to 5% every month. It was ridiculous how much. So you didn't have to be good at anything. You just literally had to buy a property and hold it long enough, hope that the market didn't tank before that time, and you would have made money. I remember all these poor, broke people at my church who had no education whatsoever. They were buying properties and they were making money, and they thought they were freaking geniuses. My parents fell into that trap too. My parents ended up buying like 4 properties that they lost all of them.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what type of loans they were getting. They didn't understand any concept. They just knew that they were buying properties, and somehow this paper was telling them that it was worth more. So anyway, I decided to do that, and I met more investors, and that's where I decided that, you know what, I am going to be able to do more doing this than just simply going. So Chris, you're an investor in my area. You're currently wholesaling or fixing and flipping or whatever. I can approach you one of two ways. I'm gonna say, hey Chris, dude, you know, can I get some of your time? You know, I would really love to like pick your brain about stuff and just learn how you do everything. I could do that, or I could be like, hey Chris, how's it going, bro? Just to let you know, I offer a service here. So if you ever thought about doing bandit signs, or if you're currently using bandit signs, I can assist you with that. You know, I can be of value to you. And by the way, you know, I did some wholesaling back in the day. Is there anything that you have that you need assistance with? Like, you know, I do this for a lot of different investors. So maybe you have a property that you need to get rid of that you haven't been to, or maybe you have something that you're looking for. As I said, I deal with a lot of investors, and I put a lot of their bandit signs. And a lot of them tell me what they're doing. So maybe we can sit down and talk and see how I can help you out. Which one is better? Which one are going to be? Because you know as well as I do, as being quote unquote successful in people's eyes, everybody comes up to you with their hand out, wanting information. Everybody, and unfortunately, more often than not, our people, minorities, they're the biggest time wasters out there.
Yep.
They're like, hey, yo, let me get at you about that real estate thing.
Right.
And you're like, fuck, I already know you're going to. Like, I already know that it doesn't matter what the fuck I tell you, you're not going to do this shit anyway, right? So I decided not to be that guy. I decided to be the guy that came in adding value. There's a good friend of mine, and he had an email address. He still has it to this day. I've tried to get it many times. It was at Yahoo, but it was always add value at yahoo.com.
Wow.
And that always stuck to me. That always stuck with me. And I was like, how can I add value make some money, and then eventually connect with other investors. And I had a plan, and my plan worked out great. I had a plan to make money while doing the bandit signs, connect with other investors. Eventually, I was going to connect with one or two investors that wanted to work with me. I ended up meeting an investor here that wanted to connect with me. You might know him, Elijah Rubin.
Okay, yep, I know Elijah.
So yeah, Elijah was a client of mine for a while there, and then we started talking. He realized that I had done some wholesaling back in the day. He's like, man, I'm looking to expand out my company, so he brought me in, and I became the vice president of his company for a while. Eventually we parted ways. We're still friends nowadays, but I kind of went off and did my own thing. But the whole concept worked exactly like I wanted it to, which is I'm going to do this to make money. I'm going to do this to network with other investors, and then from there, I'm going to be able to build enough relationships that I'm going to be able to get back into the game. And even after I parted ways with Elijah, and he was doing his thing, I was doing my own thing. My network and the people that I worked with was people that I met through putting out bandit signs for them.
Okay. And that's one thing I would say too that I love that, every time you post about even the success that you're having, you always talk about, like, for instance, checking on this to make sure that I'm providing my investors with a great return. You always have that, let me help, the people first, obviously, which is in return going to make you money. Like you said, it's always about providing value. I think that's, like you said, especially minorities, it's the one thing that we lack is we're just thinking about ourselves. Even when you're talking with a seller negotiating, if you can really think about how can I help this person on the other end.
Unfortunately, as minorities, we were brought up with a very poor mindset.
Right.
And a poor mindset is a poor mindset. It doesn't matter what color of skin you are. But a poor mindset basically says, so there's this thing that was going around the internet about 2-3 weeks ago. It was called the Marshmallow Test. Everybody had heard about it. Basically, it was like you can determine the successor of a child for the most part if you do the Marshmallow Test, which is, hey, you can have this marshmallow right now, or if you wait an hour or so, you can have 2 marshmallows later. Well, they found out that poor kids were normally more of the give me that now.
Right.
Because those things wasn't available to them. I remember going over to my friend's house, and my parents never had snacks. My parents were like, fuck you, fuck snacks. We only have real food, and if you want something to cook it, you're not going to microwave anything. So there wasn't no snacks in my house. I remember going to my friend's house, and he had chips and crackers and all this stuff, and I would go fucking crazy out there because I didn't have it.
Right.
Well, translate that into the real estate world, into the business world. A lot of the times we're out there looking for ourselves, and we're like, you know what, this, we've been tired of working for this motherfucker, and we're going to start doing our own thing. So it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me, which is true. However, how you approach it is a completely different scenario. And when you come from the it's all about me mentality, you are going to alienate yourself, and you are going to eventually put a bad name onto yourself. And my mentor taught me this. He said, look, when you're making money, money isn't just going to fall out of the sky. God isn't just going to open up the heavens and say, here's bags of money. Money's going to come from other people. Mm-hmm. And those other people aren't just going to give you money to give you money. You have to give them something of value. So you have to always add value to somebody in order to get money. And even if you're looking at it from a very, very selfish, it's all about me standpoint, dude, if it is all about you, you got to understand that you are not going to be able to get these people's money if you make it all about you, because these people don't give a shit about you. They give a shit about themselves. And I hope everybody's taking notes at this point. I really, really hope. And if you're not, take out a pen and a paper and write this shit down. And if you're not, rewind this shit later and write this stuff down. But every single person has a huge antenna sticking out of their head. Every single person in the world, doesn't matter your color, your age, your race, your religion, doesn't matter where you live, absolutely anything. Every single person has this. Imagine a large antenna just sticking out of your head, beeping like that old Dick Tracy day with the little lightning coming out. And it's got these letters coming down, and they're all tuned into WIIFM. Every single individual is tuned into WIIFM, which means what's in it for me. Nobody gives a about you. Chris, You seem like a nice guy. Your daughter is super cute right here in the picture, but I don't give a shit. Like, I got kids too. I got to pay my own bills.
Right.
You know, I got to do my own things. I got other people, other responsibilities to do. You know, at the end of the day, I hope that we can make money together. But if it's all, you know, if it ever comes down to you making money or me making money, then I'm going to most likely look out for me making money.
Yep.
And guys, you have to understand that now. You can always tweak and turn that. You can always adjust those things, because even though you are always looking out for yourself, because nobody else is going to look out for yourself, the best way to look out for yourself is to look out for other people. Because once you turn around and look out for other people, so I just mentioned, Chris, I don't give a shit if you make money or not. I'm going to make money. But what if there was a situation where I'm dealing with Chris, we're working this deal, something happens, my buyer or seller decides to screw something up, which has happened to me before. I've had a buyer come and say, hey, man, I'm willing to buy the property. I'm representing this hedge fund. We need to get you out of the contract. I'll make sure to pay you this amount. The day of closing, he calls me back and says, hey, man, I can't pay you this amount. I can only pay you this amount. And it was such a small amount that I wasn't even going to be able to pay my partner in the deal. So I basically fought tooth and nail to get enough so I can pay my partner what I had promised him. Because even though it's all about me, I understand that if I take care of other people, they will take care of me.
Yeah.
They will appreciate that. They will say, hey, you know what, Chris, man, you know, we got this deal. Here's something that happened. I know I had promised you $3,000 for this deal. The seller f***ed me over. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to still make sure you get your $3,000. Mm-hmm. We're only going to get $2,500 here, and I'll cut you a check for $500 myself, just so you can be whole and get your $3,000, because that's what I promised that was going to happen if you brought me your seller or your buyer or vice versa. Yeah. Well, what I have just done now is I have built a relationship with Chris. If sometime in the future something comes up where I could be of use or I could be available, he's going to think about me first, because I was the only guy that not only didn't come back and say, hey, man, let's split that. Oh, come on, let me make a little something. No. I said, you know what? I had promised you this. I'm a man of my word. Here's what I'm doing. And honestly, that sounds selfless, but it's completely selfish. It is just how you look at things.
Right.
Because I'm doing this with the purpose of building relationships for future. It's called human equity.
Yeah.
You're building that human equity with these people so that further down the line you can cash it in at some point. And that's the whole concept of networking. That's why I haven't done any marketing before you ask that question, because everybody always asks me that question. How do you get your deals? How do you get your money? I fucking network. I don't do any marketing. I don't do any bandy signs. I don't do any yellow letters. I don't do any of that shit. I simply network. I go to networking events. I network online. I network with individuals that I've already within my network and have them introduce me to other people in their network. I'm always networking. And more than anything, guys, you have to understand that when you're networking and when you're in it for the long game, if you're in it for the short term and you only want to do 1 or 2 deals and get out, be all about yourself. Let everybody know that you're all about yourself. You're going to get a deal or 2, and that's probably going to be it.
Yep.
However, if you're here for the long term, if you're here to build cash flow, if you're here to build relationships with individuals, if you're here to really make a business and a career out of this, you have to make sure that you're taking care of other people in your business, in your circle. Always be a man or woman of your word, because this is a very small, tight-knit community. And if you get a reputation for being a selfish, eventually you're only going to be dealing with other selfish.
Man, that is so true. It's so crazy, man. When I've had people, screw me out of deals before. Not too many times, because once you learn that one time, you're like, all right. But it's just funny how some people come in the game, man, and it's like they're in it for that short term, like you said. It's just, can I make a quick buck? And they're not thinking the long-term wise. It's like, listen, if I make sure he eats or she eats, I'm going to always eat forever, because they're going to come back to me. We're going to do business together.
I've had multiple deals in my wholesaling career that were brought to me by people that just like me. Hey, I know that I can sell this to somebody else, but sell it to you. There was this one time, so the lady who let me borrow money for my first fix and flip ever, I met her back in the day. We worked together. We did a few deals together here and there. Nothing major. Eventually, she started really, really turning it up on the wholesaling. And one time she let me borrow money to flip a house, and we just kind of built this relationship from there. One day she calls me and she says, "Hey, BP, I got this deal here, and I got this super cheap. I'm gonna make about 50 G's on the wholesale fee, and I think you could probably squeeze another 10. I just don't feel like dealing with it. So why don't you just sell it to your people, and then we'll go from there." So I mean, she might as well just took out a $10,000 check and gave it to me. Because, I mean, the deal was that good.
Right.
And then I ended up selling it to a good friend of mine and said, here's the deal, bro. I know that I could sell it for this amount. I'm going to sell it to you for $5. Let me make a quick $5 out of it, but I want to build this relationship with you. That particular guy has bought and sold and brought me so many freaking deals. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
And it's all about piecing out. It's all about building equity. It's all about that long-term game. Yep. It's all about sacrificing these pawns so you can get their fucking rook. Exactly. And a lot of times people are very good checkered players. They're horrible chess players.
Yep.
Because checkers is all about a reaction, where chess is all about strategy and long-term thinking. Let me think a few moves down ahead. And unfortunately, as I said, with our culture, especially as minorities, we're programmed from the beginning. Hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. It's all about the work. Go do this, go out here. And then once you have it, show off, show off. It's all about stunning on these motherfuckers. Yep. It's all about going to the club and popping the bottles and showing on Instagram, fronting for the gram or whatever the people call it. It's in our culture. It's inherited to us. And a lot of times that teaches you to look for that immediate gratification. You're looking for that immediate gratification. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And one of the things that I do for all my students, and this, especially if you're a newbie, I would highly suggest that you run out and you buy this book or get the audio series today. It's called The Compound Effect.
I love that book.
Darren Hardy.
Yes, I love that book.
The thing about the compound effect that most newbies have to understand, and the reason why I love the compound effect, the reason why I give it, that's the very first assignment that I have all my new students do. You got to read the compound effect. More than anything, you have to study chapter 1. And chapter 1 is known as the microwave mentality. And we all, as a society, have this microwave mentality. We want things done now.
Yep.
This is why gurus are very popular. If you follow my system and you mail to my people, all you got to do is mail out this letter and you're going to get a deal. Boom. It puts this false sense of what it actually is meant to be. And what I love about the compound effect, and one of the things that I do with my students, is I don't just tell them to read it or listen to it once. They have to study it. And I mean, we literally go over and over and over and over that particular book. Because it teaches you that it's not about these big grandiose things that you have to do like you see in the movies. You see in the movies some guy is struggling, he quits his job, and then he's going to go open up a barbershop, and he does struggle, and he loans, and he finally opens up this barbershop, and boom, everything's happily ever after. When in reality, me and you know as business owners, that motherfucker's got a high probability of failing within the next 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Because that grandiose shit doesn't equal anything in the long term. However, the compound effect teaches you that it's these small, little, unnoticeable things that will eventually translate into these huge gains. Dude, I have surpassed many, many people that I first started with one day wishing to one day network with them. Dude, I had somebody who used to be one of my main buyers when I was first wholesaling who was doing all kinds of shit. He was even buying and holding back in the day. This motherfucker just called me 2 days ago asking me advice about buying multifamily out of state. I wanted to be him.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Students surpassing. Yep, students surpassing the mentor.
Because it's these little tiny things, and a lot of that has to do with personal development.
Yeah.
If you're new in the game, don't worry about the strategies, man. Don't worry about all these. There's all these fancy people that talk really fast, and they put out all these things, and you can watch sales calls, and you can check out scripts, and you can see how people do this, and check out how so and so grinds so hard and all this other shit. But in reality, it's all about what's in your mind. And because of our up programming as a society. Once again, as minorities, I say that we get it a little bit worse just because our parents really believe in that a little bit more, and they've kind of been programmed to be even more protective. Yeah. So everything is looked at through a cynical lens, you know. However, that doesn't mean that the rest of society isn't either. Middle America is. Everybody that goes to a regular job, that gets a regular college degree, that does all that shit, they're fucked. They are 10 ways from Sunday, and they hate their life. They hate their life so bad, they're so glad football's back on, so it could finally help them distract themselves from how much their life actually sucks.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So I know we're going to be wrapping this up in a little bit, but I want to ask you, okay, so being that, especially like our culture that comes from the poor mindset, a lot of, you know, crab in the bucket, the barrel, or whatever the saying is, type of mindset, what advice or what kind of things would you give someone to, you know, get out of that? Like, what advice would you tell them? Okay, so I want to look more at life like the glass is half full. What advice would you give them to start changing their mindset right now?
If you want things in your life to change, you're going to have to change things in your life. You cannot change your mindset by hanging around the same people, watching the same TV shows that you've been watching, listening to the same music that you've been listening to. Like I said, associating and hanging out, following the same people that you have been on Facebook. You know, a lot of times I hear people complain about Facebook being so dramatic, and I'm always like, nah, mine's is pretty fucking chill. Mine's is awesome, actually. Mine's is very inspirational. Because I pick and choose who I want to be associated with. I pick and choose whose posts I want to see. If I see somebody going too, you know, I don't mind if you're a football fan, but if I see somebody going too hard on their team, I don't want to follow you because that's not interesting to me. And I completely understand that a lot of the things that are passed on in as society as normal are really there to distract you from you learning who you are and what you want to be. So a lot of times you get stuck in this way because of who your associations are. And if you really honestly and truly want to change your mindset, you have to honestly and truly you have to change the information that you allow in the mindset. And that's really, really, really important, but very, very hard for people to do. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are shaking their head right now that are saying, yeah, preach, brother, I know what you're talking about. And then they're going to go back and talking to the same shit. Yeah, you know, it's Monday, same different day, you know, another week, another day, another dollar type of mindset. I remember this one time, and it started off as a joke, but this is when I realized the power of mindset. So this was, I got to say it was like at least 10 to 12 years ago. I was hanging out, I was smoking, I was chilling. I thought of something funny. And I said, you know, every time somebody says something in social interaction, it sounds like this. Hey, how you doing? I'm all right. I'm okay. You know, living another day, something along those lines. So I thought it would be funny in my head if every time somebody asked me, hey, how you doing? I would respond, man, I'm fucking awesome. And it wasn't from being a positive thing. Like I said, I wasn't doing it to make myself positive. Honestly, I just thought it was funny. I really just thought the concept of it was funny. So then I did it one time, and the face that clerk at the Circle K gave me, I was like, man, I'm onto something. So let me do this again. And once again, it was just funny. It was funny to see them, hey, how you doing today, sir? I'm fucking awesome. Couldn't process it fast enough to respond to it. Well, I kept on doing that for years after years, this day after day after day, year after year, not even thinking about it. Like, honestly, man, not even thinking about it. About 5 years later, I'm hanging out with a friend, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not having a good day. I'm not having a bad day either. Just something's a little bit off. And then I'm just talking out loud, and I'm like, dude, I can't even remember the last time that I really even had a bad day. You know, it must have been like, I don't know, like 5 years ago. And then it just hit me at that point that I hadn't really had a bad day, like a real, honestly bad day, since right around the time that I kept on saying that everything was awesome. Everything was fucking awesome. Now, once again, mind you, I wasn't doing that with the purpose of specifically training my mind. but indirectly, that's what I was doing. And now I do that with a purpose. So to anybody out there who is constantly wanting to shift your mindset, as I said, start hanging around other people, because you will notice how different what they say and how they do is to versus what you do. Right. But more than anything, really start monitoring how you think, how you feel, why certain things make you feel a certain way. You're going to start finding out a lot about yourself that that's not really the way that it's supposed to be. And then once you start hanging around people who have what you want, and that's the other thing, is that don't just hang around other people, but hang around people who have what you want. If you, Chris, you're a brand new investor, you're a brand new wholesaler, you hear of me from a podcast and you're like, hey bro, I want to get into the game, I want to do this, and you have a daughter, you happen to be a family man, and I'm over here with hookers and blow and strippers, and I'm making money in real estate. Is that really who you want to be learning from? Is that really the skills that you want to be learning from? Or do you want to be learning from another person who's also making money but is a family man, but takes care of their kids, is all about their kids? We have that option. And you, as somebody who's looking to change your mindset, look for people that have what you want. Not only financially, but in all aspects of your life. And if you don't know what you want, learn what that is. But that's going to be the easiest and fastest way. There's a bunch of different methods. There's a bunch of different books. There's a bunch of different exercises that you could do. But honestly, the simplest way is just by finding people who have what you want, whether it's be business, relationship, success, whatever, or all three, or whatever, whichever way. And guys and girls, once again, it's okay for you. Let's say you listen to me and I happen to be that hookers and blow guy that I just said, right? But I also have good advice. It's okay to listen to me for just my business advice and don't follow my personal life advice, because you want to be like me in business, but you don't want to be like me in personal.
Right.
Now, if I ever say something about, well, f that guy, let's screw him over or whatever, you're like, oh, whoa. That's not what I want to do in business. Peace out. I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's okay to listen to your parents' advice about relationship if you like the relationship that your mom and dad have. However, you may not want to listen to them for financial advice if they happen to be struggling financially. So find the people that you want. I think that's the easiest, best way for you to really, really change your mindset from a poor mindset to whatever it is you want to be, whether that be sports, whether that be work, whether that be just life in general, business, entrepreneurship, real estate. Just find those people and just stick to them like glue. Find a way to add value to them. And man, it eventually, just like the book says, the compound effect, eventually those little tiny actions will start adding up and start compounding up upon themselves.
Perfect. So, Brayand, for anybody that wants to connect with you or, become a student of yours, how can they get in contact with you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Cashflow Creator. Make sure that you send me what's up if you're listening to me on this podcast. I love interacting with people that have heard me in different podcasts. If you have questions about anything that I said, feel free to ask me that and just let me know, hey, I heard you on this podcast. That's great. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, I would highly suggest doing that. Let me spell out my name for you. Brayand. That is my first name. Brayand. It's pronounced Brian, but once again, Brayand. And my last name, Ponciano, Ponciano. Once again, if you send me a friend request, I get a lot of friend requests, so just send me a message saying, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I would like to ask you a question, whatever. Even if you just say you like it, didn't like it, whatever, just send me a message on there. On Facebook also, you can follow me and my business partner, Chris Ontiveros. He's the guy that I go and buy properties nationwide with, cash flowing assets. We do a show called the AZ Flip Guys. You can find us on iTunes and all your other podcasts under Flipping Fridays. However, every single Friday on Facebook Live under the AZ Flip Guys, we do a live show at 12 noon Arizona time. And I say Arizona time because Arizona is one of the only states that doesn't change for daylight savings. So sometimes I may be 2 hours ahead of you. Sometimes I may be 2 hours or 2 to 3, whatever. It just we don't change. So when you guys change, we stay the same. That's why I'm just letting you guys know that. However, through the AZ Flip Guys, we have literally gone over every single subject. If you're a newbie, we have specific videos about newbies. We have specific videos about what to do as a newbie, how to quit your job. We have videos about wholesaling in general. We break it all down. We interview a bunch of different people, all the way from that to buying and holding multifamily. I've literally broken down my last 2 multifamily deals from the time that I was negotiating them to the time that I bought them. We've even whooped out the whiteboard, broken down the numbers, broken down how we raise the money, broken down how we pay our investors. Everything is down for you. We don't pitch anything. We don't sell anything. We don't do any of that. Absolutely just putting out content for you guys. So if you're a newbie, that's a great library to go hit up. We got tons of shows. We're probably on episode number 70 right now, and all of our episodes are about an hour to an hour and a half long. So we got just tons of content out there for you guys. And then if you're interested in mentorship, let me know. I only have a few spots left. I'm very, very picky about my mentorship. My mentorship costs $10,000 a year or $6,000 for 6 months. Basically, you get access to me once a week where we give a personalized 1-hour coaching call, and then you get access to me throughout the week if you are happy to work in any deals, if you have any particular questions about anything. But more than anything, it's not just a coaching call. I give you guys exercises. I give you guys curriculums that you need to follow specifically. As I mentioned to you, the very first thing that I have people do is read the compound effect. And as we go through it, we start studying the compound effect, because I believe, especially as a newbie, that that's the biggest lesson that you have to learn, that it's not about these big old actions. It's all about these little tiny consistent actions over and over and over and over and over. Even if that's simply just showing up to your local RIA meeting, not doing anything, not having anything, but just showing up every single week or every single month, however often they have those meetings at your particular area. Those little tiny things will eventually compound and snowball into these big old avalanche if you just consistently keep on doing it. And that's the one message that the compound effect that Darren Hardy, he keeps on just pounding into your head. So that's what I would suggest. That's where you can find me, and I would love to hear from you guys.
Perfect. All right, guys, I'm going to make sure that I include all of the links in the show notes of this particular podcast once it releases. So make sure you come back to the podcast website, escapethenewbiezone.com. If you go in and you type and find, I don't know what episode number this is going to be, but if you obviously type in Brian's name, it'll show up, and we'll make sure that we have all the show notes so you can click those links and get connected with Brian. Man, I appreciate you, Brian, man, so much coming on, dropping a lot of knowledge. I think people are going to love this episode.
I do. I tend to get a pretty crazy response from individuals because they're like, oh, man, a lot of people come in and they share information, but you have such a different point of view about things that it just kind of opens up all these different avenues of how to think. And at some point, like I said, I'll be glad to come back onto the show and talk specifically about multifamily.
Yeah, definitely. We got to get you back on
or cash-flowing passive income and how you can live that certain type of lifestyle.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on that for sure, because I know we have some people that eventually, depending on where they're at right now, some of them, right now, transition to buying cash flow assets, thinking about the long-term game. It's cool to make the quick money wholesaling and even to fix some flips, but real estate has always created wealth through a long-term game. So we're going to make sure we bring Brian back, because he's doing real big things in the multifamily space, and that's what allows him to always catch flights, not feelings.
You like that shirt, man. I'm going to start selling that shirt here shortly, just so you know. You're able to buy one.
Perfect. All right, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast, man.
All right, brother. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks for listening to Escaping the REI Newbie Zone podcast at www.escapethenewbiezone.com.